This is the Yamaha PG-1, which stands for Yamaha Playground 1. And in Vietnam right now, this is the bee's knees. Everyone is talking about and buying this bike. The other thing that's interested me about this particular bike is that it's marketed as off-road. And that for me is always a very sensitive topic because there's so many definitions of what off-road is, and I like to sort of prove or disprove if something is actually off-road. Now, to begin with, what I will say, this bike, the listing price on the Yamaha website is 30,500, which is around $1,300. And really, the direct competition to this bike right now in Vietnam is the Honda Wave of all sorts, the Honda Blade, Honda Wave, and these are around 18 mil listing price, so around $900. So this is significantly more expensive. So the question really in my mind is it worth it? The other thing that I think is really interesting about this bike is right now in Vietnam, I think it is the cheapest scooter style bike that you can buy that has a flat seat. It used to be the Honda Dream, but I can't find that on the Honda website anymore. They don't sell it. All of the Waves and those sorts of bikes, they all lean forwards. And a flat seat on a scooter is a massive deal. Apart from that, it's nice to see something different. It looks cool. It's stylized in the old classic retro fitting, which is unique. And I think there is a justification and reason to spend a bit more money on something that just feels cool. To begin with, it's got sort of old analog style dashboards. It's got nice big gear. You know, gear 1, gear 2, tells you where you are. It's a semi-automatic, so click down, 1, 2, 3, 4, same as any normal semi-automatic. Now this bike is a Yamaha Sirius engine, so really common bike, 115cc, 8 horsepower, massive numbers here. It weighs 107 kilograms, which is interesting because a Honda Wave or a Honda Blade weighs 100 kilograms. So this is actually heavier, which would go against the off-road focus. Off-roading is very much about weight. So every time you add a kilogram, that's going against performance. And then of course, on this bike, you have, I would call them aggressive dual sport tires, which are pretty wide. They are 16-inch. And the hilarious thing about something like that is they might look cool and things like that, but in reality, the people buying bikes like this will be using them on the road for sure. And so your tire wear is going to be very quick with what I call aggressive dual sport. And also you have a lot of road noise from the knobblies on the road. So in reality, your second set of tires, if you're being sensible, are likely to be road tires. And I wonder if you can buy road tires for this bike. They're 16-inch on the front and back. And if you do buy road tires, does it then look ridiculous? But that's something to keep in mind if you're buying this bike. So to hammer home the point about the tires, this bike here is 2,200 kilometers old, and these tires are past 50%. I reckon maximum 2,000 left on this tire. So that's going to be 4 to 5,000 kilometers maximum on the rear tire of the OEM rear tire of these bikes. To put that in perspective, a normal Honda Wave semi-automatic tire out of the box will go for 10 to 15,000 kilometers. So this is getting less than half. It's marketed off-road, but what it actually means is camping. And for that, this is sick, really cool. And camping has become really popular in Vietnam. There's campsites everywhere, 1 hour out of Saigon. You know, the Vietnamese will go down to the beach, to the jungle, sing karaoke. We call it glamping, glamping, like luxurious camping, right? So you're on the road and you get to like a 1 kilometer stretch of off-road. And that's where you roll in with your acoustic guitar on this bike doing off-road, looking really cool. That's what this is for, right? But in the end of the day, for your normal driving around town, you've got the wrong tires on, which is funny. Okay, so other initial observations on this is the suspension is super bouncy. It's always like that with Yamaha scooters against Honda. So Yamaha's always like really bouncy and Honda's really hard. And then the next thing is on my drive in here, I have to say I was really impressed with it because the tires are so wide. It is actually really well planted on the gravel, surprisingly so. I was ready to laugh at it, but I didn't. It's good. And then again, when we're talking about off-road in Vietnam, what do farmers use? They use the Honda Wave, this bike. This is the bike right here. The Honda Wave is the bike that is actually the off-road bike in Vietnam, or Honda Wave or Honda Dream. These are the beast machines that go deep into the jungle. That's hardcore off-road. Is this going to replace that? No. But what's interesting is this doesn't rattle around like on the Waves, the Honda ones. There's so much rattling, all the plastics, like you can hear it everywhere, but this one is actually very, very quiet on the gravel and over the bumps. As a city bike, you got the wrong tires on. It drives really nice, like fun, but in the end of the day, it's just another scooter. And because of that additional weight, I'll put money on it, but this is significantly slower than a 110cc Honda Wave. But it's not about that. It's about the styling, the cool drive into the campsite, and just owning something a bit different. But let's go test it out on the track. Okay, so having just driven them a little bit side by side, I am dead impressed with this. This is so much fun, and it's really well planted off-road. And so what is off-road? Any bike can go off-road, right? And it's all about whether the bike is fun to off-road or not. So when you start talking about off-roading on these BMW GS's, I know it's got nothing to do with scooters, 250 kilogram bikes, it stops being fun to off-road, especially if you're a beginner. So any bike can do anything. Look at Paul Tarras. He can make a huge adventure bike look like a trials bike. This is fun to off-road. That makes it an off-road bike. But if you're driving this around the city as your commuter, you're kind of wasting this bike, which unfortunately is what most people will be doing. But if you do want to venture a little bit off to your campsites, this is an absolute winner of a motorbike. I can see it right now, putting your tent on the back, side bags. It's going to be so cool. I almost want to set it up and go right now. Very impressed with it actually. But I'm now going to measure with a tape measure the ground clearance, because if you want to go off-roading, ground clearance is important, sort of. All right, let's try. It comes in at 20 centimeters. All right, let's try the Wave blade. It comes in at about 17 centimeters. So you got an extra 3 centimeters of ground clearance, of which probably about 2 centimeters is the tires. Anyway, apples to oranges. The main difference really is all this plastic that just vibrates around every time you hit a bump. Even hitting potholes and things in the city, this bike you got a nice quiet noise, except for the tires. I'd be interested to know how it runs with road tires on, to be honest with you. Okay, so I think the Wave or blade has more power. So what I'm going to do now is a quick drag race. I'll set that up and see which one's the winner. So when you're looking at speed, there's a lot that goes into it in reality, sprocket sizes and things like that. So it depends on the distance, the balls of the riders, and then the weight. But at least in OEM form, the Wave or blade has more acceleration than this bike. But I think the point of the story really is whether a bike is 110cc or 115cc, it's completely irrelevant. It's not important. And if you want to change the gearing to get more acceleration or more top speed, all you have to do is change the sprockets. So keep that in mind. If you buy this bike and you find it a bit sluggish off the line, you can always fix that by putting a bigger rear sprocket on, for example. So the Yamaha PG-1 has a 5-litre gas tank, opens with a key on the side. In here, compare that to a sort of Honda semi-automatic of 3.7-litre gas tank. In real life, does that mean anything? To me, no, not really. Very small differences. And in a country like Vietnam, there's so many petrol stations anyway, it's not a big deal. Here are 4 things that I don't like about the Yamaha PG-1. The first is the weight. Why does it need to be 107 kg? I don't know, when every other scooter is 100. Seems excessive. The second is the tires. Again, with some research, maybe it's not a big deal, but right now, as of sort of not having done research, the tire size, the aggressive dual sport, even thinking about what sort of inner tubes were available, the tires are a question mark in my mind. The third thing is the gearing. So it is very slow off the mark, but again, that can be fixed with sprocket changes. The fourth thing, if you're going to advertise an adventure bike, an off-road bike, or whatever this is, a camping bike, why put on such crap mirrors? I mean, already it's sort of flicked around. Buy some double take adventure mirrors off chronix.com to solve that one. The fifth thing I don't like is a rear drum brake. Again, drum brakes in mud get clogged up and don't work and actually become quite high maintenance. For city driving, a drum brake's absolutely fine. For off-road driving, drum brakes are useless. So here are 5 things that I do like about the Yamaha PG-1. First of all, this is way more off-road capable than I ever expected. The second, the styling is awesome. I really like it, something different. The third, a flat seat. That's really unique these days, super comfortable. The fourth, actually the price point at 30 mil 500s. Okay, it's more expensive than all the other semis around, but that's actually a good price for a bike of this quality. And the fifth, which is actually a big one to me, it doesn't vibrate all over the place. The plastics don't rattle around when you're driving around the road or hitting potholes off-road. Really, really good from that perspective. So on this bike, it's been a lot easier to list the 5 things I do like over the 5 things I don't like, which is good. So that's the Yamaha PG-1. Such a cool bike.